Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon Ariola, and I'm your moderator today for today's webinar, Role Changes and Reversals. Before we get started, I'd like to go over just a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. We want to remind all of you that all sessions are recorded and archived as webinars and then can be revisited on our website and on YouTube. We would also like you to access YouTube and like us if you like our webinars so that we know that we are providing the service that we want to our community. You will also have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We'll collect these and address them during the Q&A at the end of today's session. So with that, I would like to introduce Tessa Sweep from Banner Sun Health Research Institute. Tessa holds an MSW and is a licensed social worker. Her role here at Family and Community Services at Banner Sun Health Research Institute is a patient and family navigator. She holds both a bachelor's and a master's degree in social work from our very own Arizona State University, and has specialized in geriatrics for over 2 decades. So with that, I would like to introduce our presenter today, Tessa Sweep.
Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate this opportunity to talk with you today. Today's discussion, role changes and role reversals. After an individual is diagnosed with dementia and the disease is progressing, his or her role will change from collaborative partner to becoming increasingly reliant on others, which is usually family members. Most often, a spouse, partner, or adult child steps into this role of care provider and decision maker. Not only do the roles change, they sometimes feel as if they have been reversed. Family and friends can see their person's cognitive abilities declining, and their once robust independence and self-sufficiency diminish and turn into reluctant dependency, ultimately to surrender. The disease takes over, and others take on the role of care provider to the individual in all aspects of their life. On today's discussion, we will look at defining how the roles change for all involved, discussing those areas included the spouses, the partners, the children, and the person with cognitive decline. We will describe the emotional transformation that occurs. There are a range of emotions that one processes through this journey. We'll help you understand your own feelings of loss. There are multiple losses and many factors involved in the process. And for the person with dementia, there is also great loss. And we will look at how to plan ahead for the continued changes you will face in the future, being ready for the challenges ahead. And then we'll look at creating a new paradigm, a new normal for your life, a new way of life, with hope for a loving future. This topic is important as you see the shift in roles and need to find ways to cope with the changes, planning for the future, and being ready for the challenges you will face. Now we look now at how the roles change with your loved one with dementia, the person that's been diagnosed with cognitive changes, cognitive decline. They are experiencing changes in themselves, changes in who they are and how they function in their world. Their role as husband or father, wife or mother, that's changing. They may be very aware of these changes or seemingly have no idea that they are changing. But they are. They will slowly lose independence and control, and oftentimes very much want to hang on to it. They are losing control of their life, and that can can become upset with others trying to make decisions for them. For instance, trying to take the car away or taking control of finances. Someone who has always done these things, now having those normal day-to-day decisions and freedoms being taken away. I had a patient tell me, I can drive just fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just a little forgetful, that's all. They often want to minimize the issue and continue their life as it always has been before. It's difficult to make changes. They may have insight into their declining cognition, but often they do not. They are not trying to be difficult. The disease is changing how they see the world. With dementia, there are changes in how a person understands even what we see as simple things. In those parts of the brain affected by neurocognitive disease, there are alterations in how the brain processes information. The information goes in, but it's not going in the right place. Those neural pathways are being interrupted, like roadblocks. The messages are not getting to where they need to go. They're not getting through. So there comes a time when there's difficulty with multiple aspects of one's life. For example, sequencing, doing things in order, like following a recipe. Recently, a patient told me about trying to change the oil in his car. It's something he had done multiple times through his life. But he got the sequence of steps incorrect, and he had to start over to get things in the right order. He was frustrated that he had to do it again, but he got it done after trying again. Sometimes even being able to plan becomes impossible. Working out schedules, calendars, setting up dates for activities. As one daughter told me, my dad got things all mixed up and he insisted church was today, but it was Tuesday. In the person with dementia, conversations can become more difficult to follow as the brain cannot process the information fast enough for a normal conversation. Your person with cognitive decline will withdraw as it becomes more difficult to manage all this. They are not being antisocial. They cannot manage the overwhelming amount of information, kind of like bytes of data in a computer. They can only handle so much, and it is getting less and less every day. There are also visual and spatial changes to be aware of, which these are not changes in their eyes, but in how the brain takes in the information that the eyes are seeing. This would likely explain why persons with dementia have difficulty recognizing people's faces, even familiar ones, recognizing the home that they lived in for years, or finding their way to the bathroom down the hall. Depth perception is another area that can be impaired. I had a man who told me that his wife, who had dementia, she would step over a rug in their house because she saw it as a black space, like a giant hole in the floor. So she had to step over it so as not to fall into it. The difference in the floor colors can seem like a space to be avoided. As they progress in their disease, there is also the change in how they perceive themselves. Who am I now? Am I a spouse, a parent, a sister? They may lose a sense of purpose. What am I living for? What will I do? How will I contribute? And then what about my friends? They may be unable to fully understand what is happening to them, but they may realize that things are becoming very, very different. They are moving towards dependency, though reluctantly. The person with dementia will have to relinquish control, the finances, the driving, the decision making. increasingly relying on others, but often fighting to keep control. Perhaps they have gotten lost driving or no longer able to use the telephone correctly. Or could they have left the stove on, which leads us to safety issues. At what point should we not leave him or her alone? At what point do we have them stop driving? The increased reliance on others for all aspects of one's life is very difficult to accept. Often, there is much reluctance to letting go of things that they once easily used to do. The car is one of the hot topics families have to address. This is often one of the last parts of their independence that they have to let go of. Our car symbolizes freedom and the ability to go wherever we want, whenever we want to. A family told me of trying to take the car keys away, and she said, he got very upset. He didn't want to give up the car. It's a very hard thing to have to do. The family had to get creative in how they approach the issue. And always remember to approach your loved one with a calm demeanor and present things like this on the best part of his day. The person with dementia will likely realize the loss of influence they once had in decision making or in family gatherings or being part of a group. Your loved one can recognize they are being left out, and they could express, no one is talking to me. No one invited me to that party. Where are those friends that used to stop by? It is like treating the person if they were not there. Sometimes that can happen in healthcare, in the doctor's office, or even with friends when the person made direct questions or talked directly to the caregiver and not directly to the person. So they may feel that they are not being validated. They may feel not worthy, not valued, insignificant. Always include your loved one in any opportunity that you can so that they don't feel left out. There's feelings of fear and frustration, and as their language skills diminish, so it is more difficult to express themselves. So acting out their frustration may occur. They are frustrated they cannot do for themselves the way they did in the past, and they are also having a difficult time articulating their feelings. They can have difficulty finding the right words. Maybe they substitute a word that's similar but not exactly right, or they just give up talking at all. Then there's fear of the unknown. What will happen to me? But they may not be able to express this the way that we normally would. Ultimately, it is surrender. Surrender to the disease and to allowing others to carry on for them. This adds burden on the caregiver as the person with cognitive loss will tend to cling to their caregiver. You are their anchor, their guiding light. You are the captain of the ship, the only one they have. They turn to you now at all times for guidance, reassurance, and support. So you are helping them find their way through their darkness. You are their only light. Now, the care partner. You're the partner in this journey. Who are you now? Who will you become? You might say to yourself. My life is changing, and like a speeding train, I cannot stop it. What was once a collaborative partnership changes to primary management. Now there is reluctant responsibility with the assumption of complete care. There is a progressive surrender to the loss of your familiar relationship. The familiar roles are now reversed. Perhaps your loved one was the financial person in the partnership, and now that responsibility is shifted to you, and you may be unprepared to handle it. That's when you ask for help. Perhaps the person with dementia was the glue of the family, planning events and gathering the person to set up all the parties. then you need to look at other people in the family to take over that job. The role of spouse thus changes to parent-like. You are now completely in charge, but you are their advocate, their protector. You become the planner, the organizer. Each new role may be daunting, but you will grow and become more confident. This handoff of roles and responsibilities is most frightening and emotionally challenging. You have a changing job title, and perhaps we are never quite prepared for these changes, and much less so as we get older. There can be a natural resistance and some fear and some anxiety thrown in. Many families have not prepared themselves for times of crisis. Many have not had conversations about handling health care or financial issues. Perhaps advanced directives need to be completed, and there's legal decisions and property. Now you have to assume care of another person. There is a progressive surrender. There is the loss of your once valued and familiar relationship. At what time you and your loved one shared emotional support, someone to share difficult decisions, family issues, or sickness. Now it is one sided. Ask for help. This is the time when the caregiver, the care partner, needs to reach out to others for help. Do you ask for help? I have many care partners that I've talked to over the years who say, I don't want to burden my family. Or they say, I can't ask my kids. They have their own lives. So who can you ask? And make sure that you ask for help. Now, what about the kids? Now, adult children, if they have a parent with dementia, you're now thrust into the role of caregiver. The role of child now changes to parent. Reluctantly, the responsibility shifts to the adult child. Now the focus is on the person with dementia, and there is the loss of your independence and the focus on your own life. You no longer have them as your parent. That role is gone. You have lost that reassurance of always having that parent for support. As one daughter told me, Mom was the one I turned to when I had a problem. Now I have to take care of her. Perhaps you are the only child with the burden squarely on your shoulders. Or if there are others, there has to be some planning and negotiation with those siblings and maybe even the other parent. The whole family could rally around and help. That may not always be the case. Sometimes we have to deal with denial, the denial of the disease progression. There's nothing wrong with Mom. She's fine. You are overreacting. I had an adult child say that to their brother. They don't think anything's wrong. They think that someone might be overreacting and taking too much of it. I had a spouse tell me they, which meaning the children, don't believe me. They didn't believe the spouse when they said that the loved one was having such difficulty. The adult child may not grasp the severity of the situation. If you can, get permission to speak with the neurologist for a clear picture of the condition of your parent. Spend some time with Mom and Dad. I had a daughter recently tell me, I didn't think Mom and Dad needed that much help until I saw what was happening. Mom was so lost and Dad was so worn out. So I stepped in and helped them. Now you are the one that is care provider. Caregiving now is a reluctant responsibility. So now you're having to assume the majority of driving, finances, decision making, whoever you are. As a caregiver, you're the spouse, the partner, the adult child, the sibling. Responsibility shifts to you. You may be making these decisions alone, handling day-to-day functions. And you might be saying, I didn't want to be doing this.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. We had to change computers. So we were talking about reluctant responsibility, handling the day-to-day functions, increasingly having to navigate uncharted waters alone. You've had to surrender your own independence, saying to yourself, I just can't jump in the car to meet a friend or go on an errand. I have to make sure Dad is okay first. Your own needs and wants are minimized or completely forgotten. Going on for so long, some caregivers tell me, I don't know what I would want to do if I had some time for myself. But your needs are important. You need to make time for yourself because this can help you manage the exhausting and daunting task of caregiving. Much like when the airlines tell you, put on your oxygen mask first before you help somebody else, you need to take care of your own needs first, as your loved one depends on you. It is not selfish to want and ask for help. It is necessary. Like we often say, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a lot of folks in this journey of dementia. Oh dear, I can't change the slide. In your community of friends, maybe they are not sure of how to talk about the changes. Maybe they ignore the subject when you desperately want to talk to someone about all this. Maybe you get doom and gloom responses, or they talk as if the person was not there. So the friends dwindle, or they distance themselves. Since you and your person are spending more time home, those connections can lessen. It could be difficult to have your person get out with you to activities, card games, and church. Maybe it is embarrassing. You worry that your loved one may do something or say something that makes you uncomfortable. They can lose their inhibitions and say things that are very out of character, or with the mood changes, get irritable and want to leave right away. Sometimes with friends, you may get a sympathy response. Oh my, too bad. We're so sorry. Instead of what you really need is empathy and action. You're in a tough spot, I see. I'll be over tomorrow to help you. You need somebody to step up. Often they do not know how to step up, how to ask, how to talk to you about what they can do for you. Maybe they do not know much about dementia, but you can enlighten them. Explain what is happening. Tell them what you need. They are likely more than willing to help out. It is human nature to help others, and your friends are no different. If you feel a need to talk and no one is available, a caregiver support group can be just the thing you need. By connecting you and meeting others that can share and communicate with you in a way that only others in the same situation can relate to. And as we go through this journey, as we go through the days and months, there's emotional transformations. What are all these emotions? You're wondering to yourself. I have never experienced anything like this before. The emotions in this journey can be overwhelming, but you will learn you can get through this. There are many emotions that you will be experiencing. A lot of very negative ones, like guilt, denial, anger, fatigue, maybe even resentment, feeling isolated, feeling confused, feelings of sadness and loss. Those are the very difficult and negative emotions. So let's add some positive ones too. As we go along, you'll also experience love and empathy. You'll be feeling strength, feeling bold and capable. and resourceful as you learn new things. You will be determined, and you're always loyal. You will transform with, into new paths and new emotions. See the words that define your life in this time. You can add the words that fit for you. See that there are some that you can relate to. The one we will focus on right now is loss, understanding your own loss. There are many different kinds of loss you are experiencing or will experience as your loved one progresses through his or her changes that occur week by week and month by month. There is ambiguous loss, the loss that has an unclear ending, hard to see when the end may come. There is losing a sense of control. Things are changing and I don't know what to do next. You will often lose predictability and the ability to plan. You never know when he will be in a bad mood or wanting to sleep. I can't plan anything. Or you lose familiar connections with your loved one and with friends and family. The friends may dwindle. And you will experience the loss of emotional and physical intimacy. There is the loss of reciprocal feelings from your loved one. They will gradually lose their ability to offer loving connection or emotional support. Ambiguous loss is a concept developed by Dr. Pauline Boss, PhD. She is a professor who wrote a very good book. She defines this term as loving someone who is both here and not here, physically present but psychologically absent. That fits for the folks with dementia. They are physically present but psychologically they have gone. Ambiguous loss is a loss that has an unclear ending. Understanding this concept can help you manage your grief and stress in the role of caregiver. I recommend you read her book, Loving Someone Who Has Dementia by Pauline Boss. It is very useful for helping you cope with the demands of caregiving and understanding how this concept of loss fits for your situation in loving someone with dementia. In coping with your own losses, allow yourself to grieve little by little. There is no time frame. Losses occur as the days go by, and therefore you can be acknowledging this and be sure to give yourself permission to grieve. Your person is grieving in his or her own way as well. Provide an outlet for both of you to find this common ground in grief. Plant a tree, make a collage, reminisce, call old friends, listen to music. Find those connections that fit for you. Building your confidence with each new skill you learned in coping with this journey. As Dr. Voss says, feeling confident in your ability to manage stress and solve problems helps you cope. So believing that you can do this, well, that actually helps. Creating a new life and a new paradigm. Now you have a different life, not one you planned on, not one you wanted. One of my caregivers said, I didn't sign up for this. I think she was feeling a bit resentful. You had a cheery picture of retiring and growing old together, having your parent enjoy your children, taking trips, holiday gatherings. Much of this can still happen. It takes work and love and a sense of humor. Really, you do have to laugh. Don't forget to find the joy in each day. Acknowledge the change in roles. You are different now. Your loved one is different now. And rather than longing for what was, focus on the here and now, embracing the changes and forge new pathways. Try to accept that you do need love, support, friends and family to surround you and embrace you. Focus on maintaining an emotional connection with your loved one. Spend that quality time together with music, a book, photographs, physical connection. Intimacy can be as simple as hugging and holding hands, maybe a back massage or a hand massage. Find ways to keep your social connections. That is so very important to not let that go. Have that card game in your own house. Have someone stay with their loved one and go out to the golf group. You need physical and mental exercising. Ask for help. That is one thing our caregivers often are reluctant to do. But it is so important. You're really not being selfish. You really need to ask for help and really accept it when it's offered. Give yourself permission to ask and accept whenever those friends or family offer to do something. Even if it's a small thing, that can make a difference. A shopping trip, someone might offer to stop at the store for you, or maybe some respite time. Your friend could stay with him while you go attend a class. Maybe even just a friendly chat to walk the dog. Anything to lighten the load. Let those people that you love and that you care about, let them care about you and offer their services for you and your loved one. It's really good for both of you. Really helps ease the isolation of being a caregiver. Continue to make memories together, and most of all, laugh. Don't forget to laugh. You can laugh and cook and sing and draw. Think about the things that you can do together with your loved one. Music is especially important. Oftentimes, I have found working with folks with dementia that music is like the one thing that brightens them up. I can have a patient that hardly talks at all. I remember the lady that really didn't have much speech left in her vocabulary, was very limited. But when you turn on the music and you have her listen, she knew all the words to the song and she was singing with all of us. It was very special. So listen to music, look at pictures, reminisce, look ahead to the future, forge new pathways, and make some new memories for yourself. At their core, your loved one, your person with dementia, they will always be that person to you, that wife, the mother, the spouse, the husband, the aunt, the uncle, your friend or neighbor. Despite that change in your relationship, they will always be that person at their core. So always treat them that way. They're still your spouse. They're still your parent. They're still your friend. This journey as a caregiver is very stressful and has its moments of pain and sorrow, but it also has its moments of joy and love and peace. Recognize the changes in your loved one. Recognize the changes in yourself. And go with the flow. As time goes on, you will find strength and you will grow in your abilities and grow in your confidence in taking on this enormous role of caregiver. And your loved one will be all the better for it, having you as a strong caregiver will keep them strong. Tess, thank you. That was a great recovery from a technical issue. We've had several people submit questions now, so with your permission, let's just go ahead and start with some of the questions that were submitted. First of all, Ed submitted a question that said, I have no skills to become my wife's caregiver. I am absolutely lost. Where do I begin? I feel so depressed and so angry that I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to care for her. It wasn't my job to care for her. Wow. Tess, what would you recommend for Ed? Where does he begin?
Well, he begins by finding a support group or someone he can talk to. He needs to express himself and to get his emotions out on the table and have with other people that can really relate. He's not sure how to care for her, so education would be in order. It's helping him to find ways that he can manage her care, perhaps a daycare program, perhaps in-home care. And he sounds angry that it wasn't his job. Once he gains some confidence and addresses his depression and emotions, he will be able to function better as his wife's caregiver. We wish him the best.
Thank you, Tess. And Nita wrote, on the flip side of the coin, I miss being the one my husband took care of. How do I grieve no longer being the love of his life and someone who was taken care of?
Yeah, that's a switch of roles, Nita. Think about the good life that you had together. You will grieve for that loss of that relationship, but that relationship is changing. It's not the same, but it's at its core, he still loves and cares for you. I would address that question with a good book by Pauline Boss called Ambiguous Loss, called addressing the concept of ambiguous loss. The book is called Loving Someone Who Has Dementia. She can still love him and care for him, and he loves her. At his core, she is still the love of his life. Thank you, Nita.
Thanks, Tess. Here's another one written by Sean. My partner has really pulled away from our friends and family since his diagnosis. He was always the gregarious one who made most of the decisions for me and for our kids. I need help, but he won't let me ask anyone for it, even our kids. Any suggestions? This refers back to our conversation about reluctant dependency.
Yes. As you've had to take on the responsibility of more things, your husband or partner is really been more and more reluctant to let someone. That's very, very common, and it takes little steps, one by one. He needs the help, but he won't let anyone do it. Won't let her ask for help. Perhaps with a different expression, she will be able to ask for some assistance from the community and from her friends and even the children. Okay, thank you. We're starting to wind down now. Are there any other questions that we can address?
Seems like there's just one more, Tess. Comes from Tammy. I have no idea even where to start in understanding our finances. My daughter-in-law wants to take them over for us. That's awkward for me. What should I do?
I think the best thing is to try to have a family meeting with your daughter and son and other family members to discuss the best direction to take. Perhaps your daughter-in-law is the one who's good with money and good with financial matters. But you need to have a plan. What do you want to see happening? What do you need in terms of your finances? What kind of caregiving are you going to need in the future? You need to plan around that. So sit down and have a good conversation with your family as a whole, and so that you can all get the support of each other to make sure there's no animosity or anger involved in this process. So the best of luck to you.
Thank you, Tessa. And that was the end of our questions. Thank you, Tess. This was a very difficult conversation, very difficult journey for our family members and their loved ones living with dementia and Alzheimer's. I want to thank you, Tess, and thank everyone for attending today's seminar. And again, our apologies for the technical difficulties, but we really appreciate the fact that you hung in there with us. If you have any further questions, you can always reach us at www.bannerresearch@bannerhealth.com. And as a reminder, once you leave today's webinar, you're going to receive a survey within about 48 hours, and we really would appreciate that you provide your feedback about our content and what other topics would be of relevance to you as caregivers and as family members. You'll also receive a follow-up email with a link to review today's webinar. And again, as a reminder, all of our webinars are archived on our website. So on behalf of Banner Health and Family and Community Services, Tessa and myself, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.